Welcome back to episode 67 of the Grappling Growth podcast with me, Joe Testouri. We are just over 2/3 of the way to 100 podcasts. And if you're someone who's been here from the get-go or you've tuned in recently, then welcome and thank you. I hope you get at least 1% of the knowledge and transference of intellect from the guests that come on as I do. On today's podcast, I had the pleasure of welcoming on Jon Grannis, who is the managing director of Sollah, who essentially create really, really cool creative videos for businesses all over the world to help them with their training, their retention, and to essentially keep employees aligned with their business. In this episode, we spoke about how they're leveraging artificial intelligence and how they're trying to keep AI at the core of integrity when businesses are looking to implement and use AI for maybe videos that they need for training. We also spoke about his advice that he'd give to his 20-year-old self and how to actually smell the roses and enjoy the process as you go along. Jon is someone who has acquired 4 companies, so he knows a thing or two about business, and he has a very high level of thinking and is very cognizant of how to create products that the end user loves. If you're someone who wants to understand a little bit more about how to elevate their business further, Jon could be the guy to listen into for you. As always, thank you for your time. I hope you like the podcast. As entrepreneurs, we all experience challenges in our business journey. I'm Joe Testouri, and the Grappling Growth podcast is my attempt at documenting my entrepreneurial journey while building my brands. I sit down with fellow entrepreneurs, understanding how they grapple with growth. I hope you find value and enjoy. Jon, pleasure to have you on the show today.
Thank you for having me, Joe.
You're welcome. Jon, what does growth look like to you?
Growth in what terms? There's a lot of different options when you talk about growth. What do you think in terms of growth? Business growth? What do you have in mind?
However you want to answer the question. It's an ambiguous, ambidextrous question.
It is, and that's good. Well, growth for me is at the macro level and the micro level, right? So macro would be overall growth, GDP growth across the world, and I see that as probably slightly slowing, but I think I don't see it as deep recession. I see it as the opportunity to reset, right? From a micro standpoint, from my business or businesses in general, especially on the state side, we were in a little bit of a tumultuous time over the last month and a half, specifically around tariffs, some other executive orders, things like that kind of created a scare. And uncertainty is the worst thing for business, right? Mm-hmm. Unless you're an entrepreneur who feeds on that, and you can tackle that uncertainty by putting new products, programs out, things like that. But at a micro level, I don't think we're as bad as people think we are. I think from a growth standpoint, if you can innovate right now, if you can turn on a dime instead of on a dollar, as we say, get to market faster and tackle the real issues that are facing businesses that use products or services like ours, you're well positioned, and you're going to begin to capture more market share. So there are some headwinds, and I'm not going to sugarcoat that. Stateside, like I said, a lot of executive decisions have a quick impact, and sometimes they're freezing, sometimes they're jolting, and sometimes they're downright fantastic, right? Sometimes as things move regulation out of the way. Sometimes that really helps small businesses. And that's who really need the most help around the world. Small businesses generate like 90% of revenue across the world, right? You have large corporations, you have small and medium-sized businesses, and we need help. And I think, some of the headwinds that we're facing now can be removed. And I think a lot of us will continue to grow. Double-digit growth, and that's what we're targeting for the next 5 years is double-digit year-over-year growth.
You've spoken about macro, micro. If we draw it back a little bit, and this is part of the podcast that I really thrive in, that I really enjoy. What about on a personal level?
You know, on a personal level, I grow when our customers grow, right? And let me give an example of that. You know, Sollah, what we do is we produce training content that's distributed across the world. You know, in multiple languages, multiple cultures, things like that. And for me, when we get a new customer in, and they call back and say, "Man, that was impactful. That for us, that helped move the needle. We can measure that. We walking down the halls, people are talking about what we've just implemented. See, that's fantastic. For me, that's a growth moment because I'm like, okay, you know what? We lightning in a bottle. Let's capture it. Let's do it again. So from a personal standpoint, you know, growth is you know business. It's family. It's a lot of just extraneous types of things that happen or interact with me on a day to day basis. So and you have to look at those things. You can't as a business owner, if I'm focusing on the P&L, okay, the profit loss statement or the balance sheet, if that's my sole focus, then I won't grow, right?
Hmm.
I mean, I'll be looking, I'll be really engaged in the business side, but if I don't look up and look around the office and look out at our studio, and see people who are developing things, if I don't do that, then what am I getting out of this whole thing, right? Yeah, so it's more than dollars and cents or pounds and cents, but that's important. You can't lose track of the human side of growth.
Understanding the wood from the trees, and I think that's where a lot of people get hung up in their entrepreneurial journey, especially at the start. They're chasing milestones as opposed to making impact amongst their clients and customers, and it's easy to make $10,000-$20,000 in a month or a short period of time, but for most businesses, retention, customer lifetime value is the two best metrics that are what we're looking for in order to grow. So you're talking about targeting double digit growth for the next 5 years. Talking about the vision, what does that look like for you? And I know that you've got your. We have to bring props to the two tellies that you've won there.
Yeah.
That's a good nod of the hat there. But what does the
Thank
vision
you.
look like over the next few years?
Well, we try to anticipate workplace problems,
Hmm.
and unfortunately or fortunately, it boils down to some common things, right? So compliance. So as we look in the compliance world, on the state side here, we know that there's retaliation issues, harassment prevention, discrimination prevention, things like that bubble up because we're human, right? You put a lot of different cultures and different people in a workspace, there's going to be tension,
Hmm.
right? There's going to be things that happen, and that's just because we all bring our own baggage to the workplace. And that doesn't matter physically or telecommuting or out at front line with customers, vendors, things like that. That tension is going to happen. So we try to anticipate and track laws both at the federal and state level, in order to be very, very proactive and be able to help customers immediate at their time of need. And so from the legal and compliance standpoint, we know that's going to be a growth area.
Mm.
Leadership development, developing people. Um, the big thing is we call it the future of work, right? So the future of work is wrapped around generational dynamics, right? So we have four, some people say five generations in the workplace. So you've got your baby boomers, your Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Z, Gen A coming up. They're in high school right now.
So what
So you've
year
got,
codes is Gen A? I've never heard of Gen A before.
yeah, Gen A. That's the new one. They're young still. They'll be following up the Gen Z that are just now getting into the
Do you know
workplace.
what years they
They're
fall between?
I think it's 2012 if I remember right. Gen A. I have to look on that, but it's actually, and for viewers, take a look at it because there's some really interesting comparisons. Now, you don't want to generalize when it comes to generations, like this generation always does this, or just this generation always does this. But there are some common threads.
Yep.
For example, Gen Z, total tech, they're tech savvy. They've been born on tech, right? That's not overgeneralization. That's just knowledge, right? They have phones, they have smartphones, and they've had them since they were little. In some cases, they were babysat with these, these apps and phones. But when it comes to growth and looking at all these generations, this tension, this friction, it's impacting things like communication, productivity, relationships. So we're looking at that very, very seriously, and how we can improve that that communication through upskilling, soft skill training, things like that. We've done a great job as a world, as a country, as a state, as a city, as a business, large and small, of training and teaching people their technical skills. So, for example, a print shop, they teach all of their staff, hey, we need to, when the ink runs out, here's how you change it. But guess what? They don't do a good job at when the ink runs out and somebody blames somebody else because nobody ordered it, and you have conflict, and all of a sudden communication breaks down, and all of a sudden nobody's talking to each other, and then productivity plummets, and then you've got maybe a lawsuit because somebody did something or said something that they shouldn't have. And look at that. Look what happens, how quickly it spirals out of control. So we do a great job of checking the box on technical skills. Some companies do a great job of checking the box on some compliance stuff, right? The CYA, you've heard the term, cover your ass. CYA, we check that box so we don't get a lawsuit, right? Or get sued. But we don't do a good job of bringing in skills that our teams and people can use day in and day out to better work together.
Why do you think that is?
It's a multi-pronged project, right? There's some cost involved. There's some skin. You have to put some culture skin in the game, right? And you have to have a resource or two to help to go to. For example, like Sollah, you need to be able to find them and bring those products in a very quick manner, right? So that's where a lot of our products and our just-in-time programs and performance management programs come in, because they tackle real issues. We always ask, what are some of your problems that you're really, really afraid to tackle? Racial inequity. Companies said, whoa, that's too big of a topic. And then there's managers saying, listen, I don't even know how to approach somebody who comes into the office who hasn't showered for a day or two and is just stinky. I don't know what to do. I'm embarrassed, or I'm nervous. How do I tell them? And so we have programs that do go through all that and help. So those are some of the key areas of getting in front of these larger scale problems. How do you eat an elephant, Joe? One bite at a time, right? You work your way through the process, through the procedures, through the barriers, and come out through the other side with folks that are happy. And guess what? When folks are happy, they're going to work for you, and they're going to stay, because you mentioned retention is huge, right? It's so expensive. I think it was I can't remember who did the survey. Something like in the U.S., it costs $37,000 to replace an employee. When you talk about everything you have to do, the retraining, the cross training, the hiring, everything. And so,
whoa.
yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of advantages to getting up front ahead of the future of work, we call it, in order to be successful.
Absolutely. So, talking about these challenges arising, are you, and if so, using artificial intelligence to maybe paint a vision for potential challenges that you might be able to address with your content and your media?
We do, yeah. So, and that's happening on multiple levels, right? On product development, on marketing, we're using AI to help kind of flesh out key issues in the workplace. So we're doing that. We're also using AI to go out and say, hey, what are the major compliance issues happening in the world today? right? What are they? Where are they? Give me some information. Give me some data. And so we're using that to kind of fill out our what we call a product matrix, right? So we have this big dashboard, and all of our products are on it, and we track how trends might be affecting that. So what that does is, as we go to production, and I told you we have a studio, 3,300 square foot studio behind us that looks like an office, looks like a manufacturing area, looks like a doctor's office, right? As we're working through production dates, we can make a change right up till about a week before. And the reason it takes a week is that we want to make sure our actors have enough time to take a look at that script and work together to feel comfortable as they're acting out the scenarios. Because everything we do is scenario based, right? And we kind of talk about cinematic edutainment. Right, so we use this, Hollywood style setup and lighting and music and sculpting and things to create that drama. But we do that in order to and we keep that product matrix so we can be just in time with our customers. And sometimes a customer will say, "Hey, I need something as soon as possible on somebody who's not following procedures on filing reports." Okay, well, let's put that in there. Let's script it and see where that lands in the matrix. So being able to be just in time on a production side gives us the opportunity to tackle some of these key issues relatively quickly.
The concept of the product matrix is something new to me. So is this something that you got from a school of thought, or is this something you coined and made yourself?
We made it ourselves. It started off as a dashboard, right? And the word dashboard comes in and out, as in popularity. But really what it is just a great way to categorize with some metadata and descriptions about the programs that we have in the production calendar. So it just helps us. We go right to the matrix and say, hey, and sometimes it's just on the whiteboard too. We transfer it over to our whiteboard in our war room and we're working through it, right? But that product matrix or dashboard is our roadmap for development. And kind of going back to the AI usage, so we're using it in marketing research, we're using it in content, kind of what we call kind of scrubbing and things like that to help give us a jump start in different things. But on the other side, we have a whole set of people that that don't know about AI in the workplace or don't understand it or afraid. We call that FOBO, fear of becoming obsolete. So we have, where we're using AI every day in all of our development, we've had customers saying, oh my gosh, we have a full series of frontline employees that are afraid they're going to lose their job because the news is saying that AI is overtaking everything, right? And so we've been developing some of our content to help employees understand the value of AI and how it can even make their job better, right? Or it can alleviate redundant jobs so that human capital can focus on the more strategic areas of the business.
So, given that information and insight that you shared there, and I remember again another concept that I learned from you last week, FOBO. How do you think artificial intelligence is going to disrupt your industry over the next 12 to 18 months with regards to how you're looking to grow?
Well, here's how it's going to disrupt the training industry, and it's starting to already. You have AI interfaces, right? AI, avatars. You have AI voice, so text to voice to text, text to voice. Some of these things are going to disrupt organizations that really are focused in on the quick hit narrative style of training, right? And those people are going to be impacted. On the cinematic side, the situational base, what we do, I don't see AI, acting out with another AI avatar yet, and working through a dynamic situation in the workplace. So in our world, it's going to disrupt some of what we call the low hanging training fruit, which means the company can come in and they say, hey, we need a narrator just to kind of talk about this concept. Well, what we're learning right now and what all of our marketing analysis is telling us is that Gen X, Gen Z, Gen Y, they want to have rich video. They want to have scenario-based stuff. Take a look at YouTube right now. You don't have a lot of people just, narrating something at you or barking at you. You see them doing an action, or you see them creating something, or you see them reacting to something, right? And that's the situation and the power of that. But there will be low-hanging fruit that AI will just pluck off, right? It'll make it super easy. There's already programs and tools out there for creating that kind of content rapidly. Um, but where you see that knowledge transfer, where you see the needle move, is in that richer content. But AI definitely has a place in our space, and it has. And I guess people always say, "John, are you afraid of AI?" Absolutely not. It's going to make our jobs easier, but we're always going to have a human side to that, right? So the human side of learning is super important because it allows us to create the content we need to make and resonate with the employees of tomorrow.
Absolutely. I think to what you said about video content now, you look at YouTube, there's very few videos where it's just someone sitting in front of the camera talking. It'd be that, and then it would be cinematic effects, and then that they might talk about that there might be an adjective or they're
Mm-hmm.
describing a scene, and then that flashes upon our screen. And I think where AI can come in is, as you said, the low hanging fruits, the videos that you might be able to use the software, describe, write out the script, and then
Mm-hmm.
it creates what you're looking for. And it can use the dramatic effects. And we've all seen the AI simulation of a gorilla versus 100 men and what happens there. And that was all created with AI. So you think of
Mm-hmm.
the production time and cost that would probably take a company to do it. You can't compare between the two, but
Correct.
still that human element is what people are looking for. And it's trying to have the sweet and fine balance between
Absolutely.
the two
Absolutely. I agree with you.
there. So you mentioned AI in the execution. How does that look for you in the business with regards to growth? Are there any specific strategies that you're enabling AI with to help the business grow?
Well, it's helping speed to market, right? So we have script writers, things like that on staff. I even dabble in some of our scripts as well. But a lot of times, as we work with a subject matter expert, we might go to AI to, help fine tune a point. Say, hey, you know
Mhm.
what? Let's just look at this from a holistic standpoint. What does this mean? Okay.
Validator.
Yep. And and AI for text to speech is gotten so much better. So we look at that as an opportunity to increase speed to market. We still have humans though that take a look at everything that comes out of an AI algorithm, and that's really important. We just don't dump from AI to the marketplace, meaning whether it's marketing materials, whether it's product development, whether it's scripting for an automated telephone system, right? A human takes a look at all that to ensure consistency, compliancy, legality, things like that, and that's really important for us. But I know that even some of our lawyers who are developing compliance content, I guarantee they start off at a prompt, right? And say, okay, for the ADA in the states, the Americans with Disabilities Act, what are the 5 things that are really important right now? And I guarantee they're prompting that out and coming up with a really complex way to interact with AI to get knowledge back out. That's the power of the tool, right? You're leveraging all this information, all this knowledge across the world, and there's value to that. There's value to bring that, but there's also it's also imperative that we review and look at what's coming out of those models to ensure integrity, compliancy, legality, things like that.
Yeah, so many points that you spoke about there, and it's about not putting yourself in the mud or in hot water, while, as you said, maintaining integrity. And I think that's something that we no one likes being sold to, and I think where so it's not a case of integrity, but that a lot of businesses are trying to use too much AI to uh, break up the fabric and the DNA of their business. And a lot of businesses or consumers do and conduct business with your company because they feel there's an alignment, there's culture, there's something there that people want to buy into. So just moving back a little bit from AI as a direct subject in peace, I'm really curious as to get your perspective from this. What advice would you give to 20-year-old John?
Well, that's a great question, Joe. I mean, and I think about this, occasionally. Um, the biggest piece of advice I would give myself that was 20 is take a step back, smell the roses, think about, what life is. Don't just run ahead, just run, run, run. Because I remember when I was 20, I was nonstop running. And when you have an entrepreneurial spirit, um, the hardest thing to do is to take a step back, evaluate. And this is on the personal side, on the business side, but stop for a second, breathe, evaluate, enjoy your moment, and then move forward. If I could do that, that's exactly what I would tell myself, at 20 years old. Take time, smell the roses. And then I would go through a stock list, right? And say, okay, buy this stock, buy this stock, buy this stock, and buy this stock if I could. But that's the advice I would give myself at 20 is really just take a step back, and just enjoy the wins, right? Because if you don't, you just, they become less sweet, less sweet, less sweet, and pretty soon you're not enjoying anything.
I'd love to explore that a bit further because you said, first off, what do you mean by take a step back? How? And then also, when you say smell the roses, what does that actually look like to you? That's what I'm
Sure.
intrigued.
Yeah. Well, taking a step back is maybe taking a day or two to look at what you have accomplished. Whoa, got a big contract with so and so. Wow, let's go out and have dinner, right, with the team or with the significant other. Let's just talk about and revel in a moment about how important this is. Okay, so what a lot of people do is they get that sale or they land that product or they develop something, and boom, they're off to the race to the next one because they want to replicate. And the thing is, I think by not stopping for a second and smelling the roses, which means taking a moment to just be in awe of what you just accomplished, even the little things, right? Man, we paid rent this month. Woohoo! I mean, it's just the little things, but it's important to take that moment, and it could be a day, it could be 2 days, it could be a week, but to relish what you have accomplished, because the time you take doing that is going to recharge your batteries. It's going to give you also another perspective or a new perspective on how you can get better, right? And so those are the key things that a lot of us never do. We don't stop for a second, rest, look at it, analyze, observe, and then smell the roses, meaning take some time to celebrate.
It's really interesting you say that, and I, I asked that question from a lens of curiosity in myself, where I, I I have taken time to smell the roses and take a step back, but then equally I've had tons of times where I have hit that milestone, and maybe it's a case of imposter syndrome or fear of thinking, okay, yeah, amazing, we got this contract in, but if you don't deliver X, Y, Z, and this goes wrong and this goes wrong, then that those silk sheets can be taken off you very quickly, or you finish an event, you accomplish something, and you just know that that was great, but I'm only as good as the triumphs that I have achieved today. And I think, just speaking as someone who's maybe slightly younger than you, it's a case of you don't want to let your ego inflate too much, where you look at this triumph and then it's a case of the thing you did yesterday then becomes 18 months ago, and then you're still holding on to those laurels. So it's just, I think I speak just for myself as someone who's trying to navigate life and is still trying to figure out what his North Star is. what or how long I should look at celebrating those wins and smelling the roses.
Well, that's a good point. Being at the age you are, um, that tends to be a little bit difficult because you're running as fast as you can, right? And again, this is what I would tell my 20-year-old self, you know. Um, but there's something to be said about just thinking, taking time to think, right? Think about the victory, why it worked, and then utilizing that information for the next fight, right? So that's why it's really valuable, and listen, you'll turn premature gray if you don't take a little bit of time to celebrate those wins, and smell the roses at least occasionally. And again, could be a day, could be an hour, could be a week. It's really up to you, the culture of your business, or your individual thought process on how the victory came. So it's
Mm-hmm.
really dependent upon you. But again, if I could tell myself at 20 what to do, or give some advice, that'd be some sage advice. It'd be really something that you can grab onto and utilize. And this isn't just for entrepreneurs. This can be somebody who's working in corporate America right now, that are sitting at a desk cranking out on spreadsheets. But guess what? You found a mistake that saved the company $1 million, or $10,000, or $5,000, or 500. Take a moment to appreciate that. Take a moment to say, hey, you know what? Look what I did. And if your manager is a good manager, if your boss or your owner is a good owner, they're going to celebrate that with you, right? Because that's something, that's an accomplishment. So that's really important. It doesn't have to be somebody who's running a business, but it can be somebody within the business. And you get enough of those victories, your culture begins to become absorbed in the victories, absorbed in the inclusion of doing the right things, or doing the things that are going to impact the business moving forward, the bottom line, the top line, what have you. And pretty soon that culture begins to push you to new milestones, to push you to new innovation, to
Mm-hmm.
push you in ways that you never even thought, because that's the power of team, right? Is together we move forward. And so that's
Mm-hmm.
important.
A team is only as good as its weakest member, and it's a sum of all of its parts. And I think we
Correct.
neglect that a lot of the time, where we think what we do is inconsequential. But as you said, finding these, forging your own path and figuring out where you've provided value or where you've done something well, it doesn't always need to be comparative to, oh, Elon Musk is building a rocket that can land back down into its shuttle, and that's it. We're all working on what we're doing, and we all have a spoke on the wheel. John, where can people find you, and what's next?
Well, you can find us at Sollah.com, SOLLAH.com. What's next? We're excited because of the content that we're producing. The content's being utilized across organizations. Um, I think, with AI, with FOBO, with generational tugs in the workplace, and specifically kind of the pseudo attack on respect and inclusion that we're facing here in the stateside.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's an opportunity for people to really, really to innovate, and to really figure out ways to communicate and resolve conflict. And that's where our head's at right now, is looking at ways to simplify communication so that we get better learning outcomes for all of the people who use our content. And micro messaging, micro learning. Those are areas that we're fully engaged. In fact, we've been engaged in the micro learning way before micro learning was a thing. By creating 2-3 minute video situations back in 2011, we were way ahead of the curve by creating interactive modules that are topic based, way ahead of the curve. So we'll continue to develop that. We're pouring a lot of energy into our new series called Why It Matters, right?
Mm-hmm.
So why does time management matter? Why does conflict resolution matter? Why does emotional intelligence matter? Why does understanding the FMLA matter? Why does psychological safety matter? I think we're at 60 courses in that series, and I believe we have another 20 or so in development. That's where we're going. We're empowering the learner, the employee, to take control of their learning, right, and to upskill as needed. Now we need organizations to latch onto that concept of, hey, you know what? We're okay with giving our employees knowledge. We're done just checking the box, right? We're done just getting the technical skills in place so they can do their job. Why don't we empower them with knowledge so that they can go above their job and do even more and create more, create faster, and things like that? So that's where we're at. Our head is in really engaging the learner on their level at their terms.
Golden. Jon, appreciate your time.
Thank you, Joe. It's been a fantastic time. I learned a lot from you today too, so I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.